You accumulate a lot of stuff over a term, and then all of a sudden you're leaving, and stuff gets packed up and sent.
We're hearing from the FBI on what they still need from the former president after finding empty folders.
A Colorado art show is creating a national controversy.
I know I didn't break any rules.
How this year's winner is making organizers reconsider what's allowed to be submitted. Good evening. Glad you're with us tonight at 5. I'm Shannon Ogden.
And I'm Jessica Porter. As the criminal case against 3 Aurora police officers and 2 paramedics continues over the death of Elijah McClain, we are now learning that his autopsy report has been amended.
So the 5 are facing 32 criminal charges for McClain's death. Denver 7's Megan Lopez joins us now. And Megan, changing an autopsy report is very rare.
Very, very rare, Shannon. I spoke with a former district attorney who has heard of second autopsy reports, but not amending an autopsy report. Our partners at Colorado Public Radio broke this story. This afternoon, we independently confirmed it. Now we're trying to learn what exactly is in that new autopsy report.
It was a case that outraged many, that led to protests and numerous investigations. It changed Aurora police and EMS protocols. So news today that Elijah McClain's autopsy has been changed is a bombshell in an already controversial case. We requested information on the new autopsy in an interview with coroner Monica Brancaccia Jordan, but she said she can't do either. She gave us a statement that read in part, quote, "My hands are tied and I'm not permitted to release the amended autopsy report unless and until I am released from the attached order and oath." That's because the case falls under the grand jury. CPR has filed a lawsuit which Denver 7 and other local media outlets have now joined, compelling the coroner to release that amended autopsy. Former Denver District Attorney Mitch Morrissey says the whole thing is unusual.
I've never seen an autopsy report amended. Autopsy reports are public.
The autopsy has been critical and controversial from the get-go because the coroner ruled that McClain's cause and manner of death were undetermined. The Adams County DA then chose not to pursue criminal charges against the officers and paramedics. However, Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser stepped in and convened the grand jury that has now indicted a former police officer, 2 current officers, and 2 paramedics. That was last year.
What's extremely strange about this is that, the one thing, amending it, okay, that's rare. Amending it months or potentially a year after there's been a determination made by the district attorney, that's very rare. And that's, in my opinion, very strange.
But for now, we won't know how it could affect the potential prosecution of the 5 defendants until either the media lawsuit or the criminal case plays out.
So I reached out to Elijah McClain's mother and her attorney today to ask for their thoughts on this amended autopsy report, but they cannot comment right now because of that grand jury. However, according to reports leaked to the Denver Gazette, several experts testified at that grand jury that McClain died from high doses of ketamine. Of course, we'll be following all of this for you. I'm live. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
All right, Megan, thank you very much. And developing right now, an investigation is underway after a police shooting at a Fort Collins apartment complex. This was near Prospect Road and South LeMay Avenue. Fort Collins police say a suspect who had a felony warrant for burglary was in one of those apartments. And when police arrived, they say the suspect tried to escape by jumping from the balcony. So then when police went into the apartment, they say there were others inside, including a man with a gun. During the encounter, an officer shot that armed man. He was taken to the hospital, is expected to survive, and no officers were hurt.
Weld County deputies are looking for 2 people involved in a road rage shooting near Platteville today. This was along US 85 just north of Highway 60 between Platteville and Gilcrest. Deputies tell us a 16-year-old was shot during the incident. Now, they are looking for a dark blue Toyota Tundra made between 2007 and 2013. They are looking for a man and a woman who likely are still armed. If you know anything, call deputies.
And Denver police are investigating a carjacking that turned into a shooting overnight. Police say shots were fired near Sheridan and Jewel. One man was hurt, taken to the hospital, and police are still looking for the suspect who was able to get away with the car. Well, a federal judge has released an expanded list of items seized from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate.
And the list describes hundreds upon hundreds of government documents collected by investigators, some that were allegedly grouped together with things like newspaper clippings. ABC's Ike Jachi is in Washington with more.
Today, a federal judge releasing an expanded list of items seized by FBI agents during last month's search warrant executed on former President Trump's Florida estate. The list itemizes hundreds of government documents seized by investigators and explains where and how they were found. The Justice Department's inventory of items taken states some documents bore classification markings ranging from confidential to top secret and were intermingled with items like newspaper clippings, photographs, books, and clothing. In Trump's office alone, DOJ alleges there were 43 empty folders seized with classified markings. ABC News learned the FBI remains concerned there could be classified records still missing. After Thursday's high-stakes courtroom showdown, a judge is still deciding whether or not to appoint a special master, an independent person, to review the seized documents for any executive or attorney-client privilege conflicts. At the hearing, Trump's legal team comparing the hundreds of classified documents seized to overdue library books. DOJ lawyers were blunt, saying because he was no longer the president, he did not have the right to take those documents. They aren't his. On a radio program, Trump repeating claims he was not to blame for any top-secret documents leaving the White House.
You accumulate a lot of stuff over a term, and then all of a sudden you're leaving, and stuff gets packed up and sent. All sorts of stuff. You know, mostly the boxes, pictures and newspapers and shirts and gear and, you know, golf balls, and just, it's a lot of stuff.
If the federal judge appointed by Trump rules in his favor, then lawyers on both sides will be offered to make suggestions as to who can review the materials. If not, Trump's legal team says they will appeal. Ike Ajachi, ABC News, Washington.
Ike, thank you. Colorado is expected to receive a shipment of new COVID-19 booster shots next week. They will specifically target the Omicron variant. The State Department of Health says anyone 12 and older can get Pfizer's new booster. Moderna's shot is only recommended for those 18 and older. These new shots are expected to offer more protection for any level of infection. Between the new boosters and the flu vaccine, we asked CDPHE about the combination of the two.
Now is the perfect time to actually roll up both sleeves, right? And get flu in one arm, your Omicron dose in the other. September and October are the best months to get your seasonal flu vaccine. It gives your body enough time to build protection before that flu virus is circulating, widely. And it's completely safe and effective to get, multiple vaccines on the same day.
We have the full interview with CDPHE on our website, thedenverchannel.com. A longtime paramedic is suing Denver Health, claiming years of discrimination, a hostile work environment, and retaliation.
And he says the harassment started when he came out as gay. He's talking only to Denver 7's CB Cotton.
These pages inspired Jordan Christensen.
It's a book that was written about the old Denver General Hospital. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
The heroism he saw through photos, he later tried to live out every day for nearly 9 years as a Denver Health paramedic.
That was taken from me.
This complaint, filed by Christensen and his attorney, alleges Christensen faced ongoing harassment and discrimination from superiors at Denver Health's paramedic division because he's gay. Christensen says most of the harassment began after he posted on social media about his identity.
I always felt nervous for my job, and I always felt like I was doing something wrong. I felt humiliated in front of my coworkers many times. It was embarrassing to be singled out.
An example, Christensen alleges Lieutenant Christopher Pattinson would mock his clothing. In late August, Pattinson was charged with stealing vials of fentanyl from the hospital. He pleaded not guilty.
Embarrassing me in front of my coworkers, such as, do I plan on buying my pants in a men's size anytime soon?
The court doc says another superior made disparaging comments about Christensen, saying, quote, "Oh, that's right. You wouldn't have kids." The complaint also accuses that same superior of flashing a Proud Boys white power sign during an awards ceremony for a black paramedic.
This culture of discrimination, retaliation, sexism, racism needs to stop.
In the suit, Christensen alleges when he tried to speak up, his complaints weren't kept confidential, the harassment got worse, and Denver Health failed to fix it.
It was so egregious to the extent that Mr. Christensen started waiting in his car and hiding in his car before he went into work so that he didn't have to deal with the type of harassment.
Attorney Spencer Kotnick accuses Denver Health of violating several of its own policies by turning a blind eye. The complaint also alleges Christensen was subject to repeat discipline when other paramedics received none. The suit says the mistreatment culminated with Christensen's firing on January 8, 2021, after his treatment of a patient was questioned, even though he says that treatment was performed in front of superiors.
They got to keep their jobs.
Now, Christensen has found a new career. But he says not a day goes by he doesn't think about his old one.
There is nothing that can replace taking care of someone or taking care of a loved one.
CB Cotton, Denver 7.
CB, thank you. And we reached out to Denver Health about the complaint. A spokesperson said they couldn't comment on pending litigation. In May, a former physician filed a lawsuit against the hospital system alleging she was pushed out for speaking out about racial discrimination. There have been at least 3 other lawsuits filed by former employees against Denver Health since 2017.
Coming up, an idea coming to fruition.
I wanted to start it to bring groups together and to bring our community together.
We meet a group of girls that dream big and became entrepreneurs before they start junior high.
Radar's pretty clean right now. There are a few thunderstorms in the weekend forecast.
Plus,
the launch team is very confident. They have, to use a Southern term, they have looked at it from izzard to gizzard.
maybe the second time's a charm. We take a look at NASA's next attempt at launching Artemis 1.